think I ever told him back when we was kids. Ward used to be my boyfriend.
Ah,
And what is your name?
Her name was Cox.
Laverne Cox.
Laverne Cox. And you went to school?
I went to school at Canton. Ward, what year did you start to school at Canton? I went there all my life, from kindergarten
started there
clear
in
through.
1930, I guess.
Okay, and I started in
38.
kindergarten, so,
We went to school in the Methodist church for a while.
yes.
That's
that
gotta
was
be
the
enough.
console.
Well, tell me about this church.
Oh, she hadn't got time and you
The
don't have
whole
that much
history
film.
that I was
Yes.
telling you a while ago, that it used to be a three-denominational church, Presbyterian, Baptist, and Methodist. And just in July, I guess it was, we decided to make it a
They
one-denominational
died out,
church.
there wasn't nothing left.
We was running around 20 members with the three denominations. And now that we've gone one denomination, I guess you call it a denomination anyway,
We got 60.
we're running around 60. We're running around 60 in Sunday school and church. So that's why we're having to put in some new children's classrooms.
Well, what denominations were here?
We're here,
Uh-huh.
Methodist, Baptist, and Presbyterians.
Do you have any idea when this church was formed?
Yeah,
Oh,
It was just a minute.
we got a marker out front.
Here's a book that tells all about it.
Yeah. Does it happen to have right there in the very front when the church was formed?
You remember A.G.?
A.G. Norman?
Yeah.
Sure.
He died out
Huh,
this
he,
year.
he and Marjorie Lee Groves married.
Yeah,
when they
they
were in
didn't
high school.
They didn't stay together too long.
He married Gunnarsson.
Well, do you have some?
I'd like for you to just take this and read it.
Do you have kinfolks buried here yourself?
No,
No, some of the Downings give me a little bit.
distant cousins and things,
A.G.
but
went
not,
on, huh?
not really.
Where
Yeah,
do you
his
live?
boy
Where
killed
do you all
himself.
live now?
Committed suicide.
We live
I guess
right
A.G. lived.
east of here,
He
and
just
where
tucked
we
them all
live
in.
was
Yeah.
the school place.
We
Oh.
came to,
Our barn is right
Clifton's.
on the
That's gotta
slab
be
where the
enough of that.
school was. And our house where we live was at one time the teacherage.
You don't
And when
remember
we
me
bought
like
it, it was
when you
just a
remember
little
Shade
four-room
Gunner
house,
worked
and we've
for
added
DW?
on to it two different
Yeah.
times.
That's mine.
How wonderful.
I had a cousin that
We
taught
lived out
school there in
West
1926 and
Wallace there,
27.
to the
Yeah.
south, Where Levi lives.
She's
David
told
was
me a
asking me about
lot of
some
stories
towns that
about
don't exist.
Boy, I'll
Teaching
bet
there.
so, yeah.
Well,
Is that right?
He got a new vehicle there that she fixes with.
Tell you, there's a bunch of old Anderson bones out here,
Yeah. Well, there's a bunch of Anderson and who else?
Elm Grove. '81 is what it says here, Elm Grove Community. Anthony Hyde.
What are you looking at?
This is Anderson, SF, and Melissa. 18 and 59, 1934, 1862, 1938.
Can we be wrong?
Well, the lady at the Eubank Brothers told us there's a little tacky or hickey or some kind of gray stone. I don't know what kind. It wasn't a very good description, but that was good enough for me.
Does me too, I think.
Grandpa Anderson, born 1859, died 1934, and SF, and Melissa, Grandma Anderson, born born 1862 and died in 1938.
Well, did you ever know either one of these people personally?
I'm afraid so. But Teddy,
Well, tell me about the peaches.
this is the old guy that fed me all the peaches that I wanted when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and Dad told me I couldn't have any, but we sat on the back porch and he peeled them as long as I wanted them. Grandma Anderson lived with us a while, and I had to go get her Bull Durham smoking tobacco. That's after Grandpa died.
What were you telling me about her saying about pretty one time?
About what?
Being pretty?
Oh, I'm not going to tell you what she said about pretty. It didn't make a difference how pretty she was, she had to talk about it. Well, Ruby's not dead
JY was, you haven't got that going, have you?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to say it. It's okay. What was he, Catherine?
Now here's Wiley and Winnie Morris Ward.
Ruby hadn't died yet. He died in. And Ruby, Jack Carroll was
Let's
their boy.
see.
Okay, this is,
Winnie is Effie's half sister.
yeah. Who do you have down there?
That's Jack Harold Wagner. He belonged to I.B. and Ruby Wagner. I.B. was my uncle.
Okay.
I know who these are. This is Barney Norris, and this is Ida Morris, Ma Wagner's sisters, Ida Morris. They have one son named Martin Norris. I haven't heard from him in years.
See, this is Ollie. Seems like I've heard somebody talk about Ollie.
Shit.
He was born in 1900, died in 79.
All right, well, you know what?
Where?
No, I didn't have it turned on. You're going to get to tell me all that again.
This is Winnie Morris, my mother's half-sister that belonged to Ma and Pa Wagner. She was born in 1900 and died in 1979. And this is Wiley, her husband.
All right, now, I didn't have it turned on a while ago, so I want you to...
This is Frank Wagner, my mother's stepdaddy. This is Georgia, her real mother that was married to John Kobe Parker first. That was mother's dad. This is J.Y. Wagner, the half-brother of mother. This is I.B., half-brother of mother. And that's I.B. and Ruby's son, Jack Harold. And that about covers it.
Okay, and this...
Willie Taylor, who is Ma Wagner's brother. That makes him mother's uncle.
All right, well, tell me about the musical part of it again.
Oh, well, Paul Wagner played the fiddle, and I.B. and J.Y. and sister, I don't know where sister's buried, she's mother's half-sister, could play the piano, and Winnie Morris, we just talked about her, she could play the piano, and I never saw a sheet of music the whole time I was a kid, but we used to go and listen to them play.
We're at their house or where?
Yeah, and nowhere else.
They're here, Cat.
Who is this here? What does that one say?
This is Martha Ann Taylor right here.
Can you read this one next to it?
This is Isaac Taylor and somebody else right here.
Well, Isaac is William Taylor's...
There's Isaac Taylor right here.
Isaac Taylor is William Taylor's brother. That's, William Taylor was Mama Effie's grandfather.
Husband of C.M. Taylor, born March the 3rd, 1861.
And this is Lydia Taylor. That is,
Are these Ma Wagner's
I think that's William's sister.
Hey, are these Ma Wagner's parents?
No, it's her parents' brother.
Oh, it's her uncle then.
Right.
Ma Wagner's
That's
This is, looks like N.E. Neal. It looks like N.W. Jesse, son of Art. Oh, excuse me.
This is it.
Did they say he could take that home with him?
I don't know.
all right.
This is the southwest section. That's where Parker's are. Northwest section, Taylor's and Babb. The Wagners are in the southeast section, and the Andersons in the northeast section.
At the southeast, that's the northeast.
Is it
All right, let her rip.
All right. Ward, Larry Anderson. It's good to see another Anderson out here on the old place. I'm a relative of the Andersons. My dad was James Anderson, the son of Jim Anderson. And this is the farm area that Granddad used to farm. Up here amongst those trees, big oak trees, is where the old place was. And of course, like I said, all this was farmed out in this area. And it's just good to see another Anderson around here on this land.
So,
Now his dad is Jim Anderson. His dad is James Anderson, Uncle Jim's boy. And Uncle Jim was Dad's brother.
Right.
Who got that straight?
okay. So, all right, so you're on about the same generation I was in.
Right.
I don't have enough fingers to figure out how you two are kin, but you're kin
We're
pretty
kin
good.
somewhere down the line. We're kin somewhere down the line.
And
Anyway, we're up here. We're planning on building a house on the 8 acres back here.
you gonna move up here?
Yes.
Well, what do you do for a living?
I'm in sales,
Yeah. So
automotive aftermarket.
so you can travel and
I travel all over the place.
so you can relocate real easy. That's
Right.
it's kind of hard for some of us to just pull up. I'd
Yes.
like to, but
It's tough, but I tell you, we're gonna give it a go. I've come down to this land many years, and like they used to just go up there and sit where the old home place was. Just
Yeah.
think of the good old
I
times.
think I'm gonna walk up there and look around right in a few
Yeah, it's
minutes.
interesting. The house is gone, the well's there, and the stairs are still there. But
Yeah.
He said somebody cut it in two and hauled it off for camp somewhere.
yeah, it's up toward camp. I'm gonna try to find the house and give you a picture of it.
Yeah. You don't have any old pictures of the old house, I gonna guess, see?
Yes.
Oh, you do?
I've got a lot of pictures of that. Got some old pictures you might be interested in.
All right. Well, we'll trade out.
Sure. That sounds great.
Since you're neighbors.
We just live right down the road from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, look good.
This is where the old home place was. We've just left Larry. Larry's building a house back over here just east of us on 8 acres. And this is where the old house was. He said it was cut in half and moved to camp. He's going to try to find it and get a picture of it. The old house set up here, and he said had a great big huge log cabin type barn that Frank and his crew built when they lived here. I don't know how long the house has been gone, but Larry's grandmother lived here and died here. He took her to Arlington just before she died. This is the old home place still. Right back over here, you can see parts of the foundation, the old cistern and well. There's two great big old huge oak trees here. Right back in there is where the house, you can see part of the foundation. Edgewood Cemetery at Lancaster. And we're visiting the grave sites of John Smith Mills and Catherine Fondren Mills. What does it say on them?
It says J.S. Mills, born October the 16th, 1827. Died November the 4th, 1909. Surely the bitterness of death is past. Samuel 15:32. And hers says Catherine, wife of J.S. Mills, December the 18th, 1837. Died June the 20th, 1918.
Well, they died a little before you had a chance to know either one of them.
Yeah.
Well, did you hear any stories about either one of them? Anything about?
Mother always said she had beautiful clothes.
Nothing about him. What were you telling me about the way that you thought he died?
I thought he was in a buggy ran away with him, horse ran away with him, and he was injured. Here's Catherine Mills Merrill, August the 6th, 1898. And evidently she's not dead.
She's an old codger if she's not.
Well, Mother was born in 98.
Yeah, but she's dead.
Well, just barely.
Well, as you can see, it's November 16th of 93. I'm in Johnson County, Illinois, at the Chapman Cemetery. It's about 3 or 4 miles southeast of Goreville and about 10 miles north of Vienna. This is where Henry Anderson is buried, along with his son Charles Glenn and his grandson Linus. We have 2 bits of information as to where Henry is buried that is provided by 2 people who were at his funeral. One is Miss Burklow. I believe her name was Ida Burklow. She was in her 90s when she died. She died, in fact, June of this year. Now, there are Burklows scattered all over this cemetery, from all the way over on the on the west side there, all across the northern part. I'd guess there are probably at least 12 or 15 Burklow graves in here. She says that Henry is buried due east of the Grinnell Marker. The Grinnell Markers, I've looked all over the cemetery, and they are all grouped right in this area. The big one there, the light colored one, is the Grinnell Marker, and then just north of it there's a Grinnell Marker, and then right back over there is a Grinnell Marker. Now, due east of there, 2 rows, there's a whole row of cement posts which indicate unmarked graves. The other bit of information we have as to his burial was from Boss Anderson, one of his descendants. And Boss said that at the time he was buried, there were a couple of big trees on one to the right, and a couple of big trees to the left as you're looking at the cemetery. And Henry is buried close to the two big trees on the left. Well, there's 3 trees on the left now, and there are 2 on the right, 3 on the right, excuse me, but there's also a big stump of a larger tree that was right in at the base of these, right over there by those garbage cans. So that would indicate to me that these were the trees on the right, these are the trees on the left, and Henry was buried close to the big trees on the left, which would also put it in the same area right over here by the Grinnell markers. We'll go up there and look at the area a little bit closer. There's a circular drive that enters at the east end of the property, goes up to the northwest, and then circles. It's a little paved drive, and it circles right here at the base of all these trees, right behind the sign up there on top of the hill. I'm looking south now. That's the back of the sign. There's the gate. This is the circular drive. As I swing around to the east, there are no graves over here. Here are the big trees that we said would be on the right. There's the stump. As we swing around to the north, here are the big trees on the left. We're looking due west, and there you see the Grinnell markers. I'm looking I'm looking west, and this is the Grinnell marker. It is a large marker for the whole family. The individual graves are marked along in there, the little small square flat ones there. Now that is a Grinnell marker right there. That's a Grinnell marker back there. Here's the big one. And there's another Grinnell marker. This whole family was buried in this area. On the ground, in the ground, right in this area, there is a G on a flat stone embedded in the ground, which I presume is like a marker for the edge of their property. But if you'll notice, due east of them, since I'm facing west, here is a row of unmarked graves, and it starts about a grave or 2 south of the Grinnell markers. These right here are Richardsons, which is evidently the maiden name of Grinnell's wife. It's on the gravestone as Helen, I think Helen Richardson Grinnell. Now I'm looking north, up the line of unmarked graves. All these stones right here are definitely possibilities for Henry, Charles, and Linus. Just east of all these unmarked graves is markers for the Simmons. Castle R. Simmons is the newer of the 2 there, and he lived from 1860 to 1946. This is Mahalac, I believe is the way you'd pronounce it, M-A-H-A-L-A-C, and it says wife of C.R., and she died, as near as I can make out, about 1938. So this is the husband and wife, and they are due east of what would be the Anderson graves, which are right in here. And then if you look right on to the east, there are the two big trees that Boss described. Now we don't know exactly who's who, but I would say those are the three markers right there. I'm looking due east from the Grinnell marker, and so it's between the Grinnell and the Simmons markers. They're all three buried side by side in these graves. We're only about 3 miles from Goreville, which is back to the northwest of us, but we're only about 1.5 miles, which to the northeast of here, about 1.5 miles, is where Henry Anderson's last piece of property was. He had a lot in Goreville, where his house was. He also had about 74 acres right over here northeast of us, and as a matter of information, Anderson Creek ran through his property. I've walked all over the cemetery, and these are the only Grinnell markers that I find. They're all clustered together right here, and with the row of unmarked graves, I feel certain this is where the Andersons are buried. There are lots of Burklows throughout the cemetery. There is, of course, like I said, the Simmons right here east of the Andersons. We talked to a lady named Simmons, Miss Grace Simmons, over in Tunnel Hill last year when Mother and Dad and I were here. Back over in the west section, there are also several graves for Gores, who presumably, I guess, Goreville is named after. Just south of Vienna is the town of Grinnell. Well, from here I'm going on down to, I'll take a quick run up to Goreville just to drive through and look at it. And I'm going to run on down to Vienna, see what I can find out there. I picked us up a few hickory nuts from under these big old hickory trees. They're right there in the middle of the cemetery. Maybe we'll get a couple of them to grow. Plant them down there in Texas. Transplant some of these Illinois trees where Norv and SF and Henry all originated. I'm on the south edge of Goreville looking north, just because I'm going into town here, right here on the edge of town. See the Masonic marker. Henry was elected to this lodge in 1863 and was a member at the time of his death. He served as steward and chaplain and tiler for the lodge.
I don't want to tell the start.
Well, just give me your name and a little bit about the...
Albie C. Newton, twice past master of Saline Lodge, number 1933, or 300, just a minute, I got that messed up. Saline Lodge, number 339, AF and AM, the state of Illinois. Our lodge burned before I became a member of it. I joined in the old Oddfellows Hall across the street from this building. We built this building in 1952 and 1953. And I've been a member of Saline Lodge since 1948.
And what all offices have you held? You've been through all the chairs?
Pardon?
You've been through all the chairs?
Yes, I've been through all the chairs, been master twice.
And you, one of the instructors here, you say you can put on funerals? And, all righty. They got a real nice lodge, wood paneling. I'm at on Fly Street, which is what the last census, that's where Henry lived, was on Fly Street. That's Fly Street going up that way. Makes this little jog and then goes up there about 40 yards and hangs a right. Parallels the highway through Goreville. Right here on this corner, about where that little cedar tree is, this is where the old Masonic Lodge was. And so Henry just lived a matter of a few blocks. I haven't located his exact location, but he lived right here on Fly Street. So he was just a few blocks from the Masonic Lodge and was a member up until the time he died. The old building burned, and Jack Newton, who I've just been talking with, remembers this was the lot where the building was, and then they rebuilt the lodge downtown, where we've already visited this morning, about 1952. Up until that time, between the time the lodge burned and then when they rebuilt the new lodge, they held their lodge meetings across the street in the Oddfellows Lodge. The Oddfellows had disbanded, and so the Masons rented the Oddfellows Lodge for their meetings. This is the Masonic Lodge in Goreville. This building was constructed in about 1952. The marker on the top of the building there shows Sailing Lodge number 339, AF and AM 1860 to 1850. Henry was a member of this lodge from 1863 till he died in 1914 or 15, whenever he died. This is looking to the north, down the main street of Goreville. This is across the street and down the next block. This is the Oddfellows Lodge. As I said earlier, the Masonic Lodge burned down, and so the Masons moved over here into the Oddfellows Lodge. The Oddfellows had already disbanded, and so they had no use for their building. And so they held lodge there until they built their lodge across the street. Masonic Lodge is right back down that way on the left in the next block. That's looking south. And then back up to the north, there's the bank. And Miss Desi Mays, who's supposed to be one of my big sources that I'm going to contact, her son is president of the bank. And then I'm standing right beside the courthouse, which is right across the street from the bank. This is the Mount Olive Church and Burial Grounds. It's about, maybe 5 miles north of Vienna. It's just past Dutchman Lake. Cemetery is just west of the church building. I don't know what kind of church it was or is now, but right back there in that area, we'll go back there in a second, is where Henry's wife, Susan Jane, who is my great-great-grandmother, she's buried back there along with her parents, Charles and Mary Dameron, which would be my great-great-great-grandparents. These are the graves. They're on the south end of the cemetery, about midway from the front to the back. This one is Susan Jane, my great-great-grandmother. She had about 5 kids, I think, and died in about 69 or something like that, and then Henry remarried. The stone says Susan Jane, wife of Henry Anderson. Right behind her are her parents. That's Charles C. and Mary D., wife of C.C. Dameron. And looking back towards the east, there's the church. These are markers for the Veaches, V-E-A-C-H. This is Pleasant and Mary Isabel, and that's I.W. Slack's wife. They were all lived in the same area as the Damerons and the Andersons, and there was some intermarriage between the Veaches and I think the Slacks also. This is Mullinax, I guess is the way you say it. There was a Mullinax, I don't know if this is the same one. This is John H., who lived from 1874 to 1948. He signed some of the papers in Henry's probate, and that's the son, and there's a brother over there, and then right back there is another Vetch. That's Ward Vetch. So all these families were closely related and friends with the Andersons and the Chapmans, the Damerons. This is Vienna Fraternal Cemetery. It's just on the north edge of the town. Follow this road on, well, right here is the road that comes in, that goes up to Mount Olive. Splits off here. But here at Vienna Fraternal, we have Daniel Chapman and Lucretia Chapman. Daniel and Lucretia are Melissa's grandparents, Melissa Anderson. Melissa was the wife of S.F. or Samuel Frank. They're right up there, they're buried right up there behind that largest cedar tree, along with some of their children. Then back off to the left we have some more Chapmans right behind that, or right in front of that next big cedar tree. There's Ward Chapman. And also Dr. J.M.C. Dameron, who was Susan Jane's brother. The slab on the ground marks the grave of of Daniel and Lucretia Chapman. Daniel Chapman, born July the 5th, 1763, died February 1843. Here lies a Revolutionary soldier. Lucretia, wife of D. Chapman, born April 23rd, 1769, died in August 1849. Right here behind him, this big tall one, is his son, as I remember. That's Samuel J. Chapman. He was born in 1794 and died in 1863. Served in the War of 1812. Here we have Samuel Jackson Chapman Hess. Some more Hesses. Here we have the wife of Samuel J. Jackson, Samuel J. Chapman. Her name was Caroline. And here we have the wife of J. B. Chapman. She died when she was 25, and that was in 1865. Her name was Clarice Eleonora, looks like. And over here we have Elizabeth, wife of Samuel J. Chapman, from 1796 to 1859. So we have two wives here for Samuel J. Chapman, and he's got the big marker right in the middle. And his mother and dad are right there beside him on the ground. Now if I look over due south, a little bit to the west, there's another Chapman over there. Now the first grave west of the big Samuel J. Chapman marker is another Samuel J. Chapman, and most likely it's his son, and the date's 1842 to 1972. And E. Pearl Chapman, 1884 to 1974. Then we have a big common marker here that says Chapman on this side, but as you move around to this side, it says Adams. Now one of the graves over here that says Samuel Jackson Chapman Hess, there's a lot of Hesses right in here, and then this whole section south of us, right in here, this is all Hesses. So evidently there was some relationship there. This is Hess, that's all Hess. That's George Dugan Hess, 1864 to 1942. And then here's Franklin Hess, 1857-1935, Jerome B., 1849-1931, and Colonel Samuel Hess, 1823 to 1901, and his wife, Augusta. And we've got over there, we've got U.S. Grant Hess and William H. Hess. I'll have to do some work and see how that all relates in. But then we've got Vetch, which is a very common name out to this whole part of the country. This one happens to be James C. Vetch. From Daniel and Lucretia and Samuel, over here to the southwest we have another big Chapman marker. This is Cora and Ward Chapman, 1883 to 1961. That's who my father was named after. And here we have Daniel Ward Chapman. He was a second lieutenant in World War I. And here we have Pleasant T., 1854 to 1931. Mary C., 1861 to 52. And here is a daughter of P.T. and May. Now if you look straight east from here, you see the JMC Dameron. This is Susan Jane's brother. 1824 to 1904. From the Daniel Chapman marker, just southeast about 5 or 6 rows and down the hill, we come to another Dameron. This is Herschel Rose, the son of James W. and S.A. Dameron. He was born May the 2nd, 1869 and died October 26th of 1892. And just to my right over here is one of the Bensons. It was a Benson who married the Henry and Susan Jane, and it was also a Benson that pronounced him dead. This is not the same one that married him, obviously, because this one wasn't born until 48, but it could have been the one that was the doctor. I'll have to check on that. And just glancing up into the distance there by the cedar tree on the very southern boundary, there's another Chapman. This is that Chapman that I was looking at on the south boundary, almost to the crest of the hill. And the marker down front says C. Ann, February the 6th, 1859 to September the 9th, 1924. And James C., February the 10th of 1856, March 6th of 1931. And as I look back up the hill, there's another Benson.